this is why I'm super encouraged, and I think so many Warrior fans are, and my goodness, after the conversation we've just started, we would love to hear where you all sit on this team after this performance and this start, 888-957-9570. I think that you think that Denver should have done XYZ because we're still getting to know these Warriors, and so we're expecting things to happen based on what we know last year. And last night is exhibit C, maybe D, maybe E, for me, about how much better this team is than they were last year. And it was a team that made the Western Conference semifinals last year. So if this team is so much better this year, and I really think that it is, that's where my encouragement comes from. Doesn't mean, based on the journey and the story that's about to unfold, that they're going to win a title, that they're going to get to the title, get to the Final Four. I have no idea. That takes all kinds of different things to fall in place, starting with health. So we haven't even reached the holidays yet. But when I see this team play, I think our expectations are still tucked into the Warrior team we knew. And now we're getting to know a new Warrior team, and it's way better. It's way better. And so expectations for me are adjusting on the fly right now. And that's what I refer to as super encouraging.
Yeah, it's definitely encouraging. I mean, you're 6-3 and you've had 7 road games and you had a 4-game trip in 6 days and you went 2-2 and you played the defending champs almost toe-to-toe down to the wire. And yeah, you're encouraged by that. But for me, you look at the way that game unfolded last night and, Denver got, Jokic had 35 points, 35 of the 108, and not a lot of help from the other Denver Nuggets. And Warriors played a very, very good game. They played their A game without Draymond Green. They had 9 turnovers as a team, and I think they had 2 in the second half, maybe 1 in the second half. I don't know if you count Klay Thompson's end-of-game gaff.
No, I don't think so.
Kevon had one in the fourth quarter, a big one.
Kevon had a bad pass. A bounce pass on the left baseline there that hit someone's leg and went the other way. I remember that one. I don't remember many others.
No, Warriors played great. They didn't shoot it great. Neither team shot it well. They both were 11 for 35 from 3, and they hung with Denver in Game 4 in 6 nights on the road. So yeah, it's encouraging. I just bristle at the notion of a moral victory because to me in pro sports there is no such thing. There are wins. There are losses. Now, can you be encouraged by, Jackson Davis off the bench? Absolutely. And Kuminga continuing to show that he's ready to be a part of a real rotation? Sure. Moses Moody continuing to be aggressive offensively. Podziemski, quality minutes off the bench. Chris Paul, he's fitting in better and better. Yeah, these are all things to be encouraged about. But to me, to use the moral victory moniker it's a misnomer in pro sports.
But that's what I'm getting at. I know people don't like the phrase. It's one of the reasons it ends up making for good conversation. If you remove the phrase, I'm pretty sure that if we polled Dub Nation, hashtag, I could prove that it was a moral victory. I think I could prove it by comments that Steve Kerr made last night. We just don't like the phrase, and I get it. It feels very milk and cookie. It feels very Capri Sun and oranges, and I understand
It's a kindergarten phrase.
I totally get it. So it doesn't show up in the standings, and this is $1 billion industry, so who cares about your moral victories? Totally get that sort of point of view, but if you do dive deeper into what the definition of a moral victory is, I think last night was it. So if there's a different phrase I could use, I'd love to pick that instead, and maybe that'll bother people a lot less. But the bottom line is, I think the Warriors themselves and Warrior fans walked away from that game feeling better about the team than they did at tip-off. And they lost. And that doesn't happen very often. And sometimes we use the phrase moral victory for that. And if that doesn't fit, whether it doesn't fit this game or if it doesn't fit the way you like to look at sports, I totally understand that. But that was a game where nobody punched a locker or threw a remote control afterward because I just don't think that really anything bad came out of it.
Other than the loss.
Sure, but I mean,
You lost the game.
But a November loss
Sure.
is not a big deal in the NBA.
No,
Right?
unless it comes down to tiebreakers against Denver. And
I mean, I guess. Although you got more, that's not even decided yet. You got 3 more chances.
Right, and Denver just showed last night that they're better than you. Certainly in that small sample on their home floor, they didn't have Murray. You didn't have Draymond. You can call that a wash. I would say Denver was more limited without Murray than the Warriors were without Draymond Green and GP2. It's arguable, but Denver relies on the inside-outside offense of Murray and Jokic, and they didn't have that.
Denver much more limited offensively. The Warriors much more limited defensively.
Without GP2 and Draymond Green.
I think
essentially.
I think all 3 of those injuries all showed up on one side of the floor, largely.
And for the Warriors, defensively, they played great. They played great without
Especially
that. Kevon Looney stood up and he put in his shift against Jokic, and he ended up with the 5 fouls, and he only played. Well, he did play 30 minutes. Wow, he played more than I thought, and he stood in there and battled with Nikola Jokic very well. And ultimately, it came down to late game execution. Kevon's big turnover, which was unfortunate. The Nuggets missed 3 or 4 free throws late, which probably would have salted the game away. So it was a little bit choppy on both ends over the last 3 or 4 minutes, and it came down to one possession where the Warriors had a chance, and Clay couldn't get the outlet pass from CP3 and hoist a 45-footer that would have tied it.
I just also love, it's not even the final score right now. It's the way it all looks and the way it all comes together. You had 6 players in double digits. The bench is incredibly productive. The Warriors have a bench. The Warriors don't have to freak out when Steph sits down. That, to me, 9 games in, there's your lead story. Forget the record. Steph Curry can leave the game and the Warriors can function.
They get better.
I mean, wow.
Look at the plus minus.
That's one stat.
If you want to look at the plus minus in general of the second unit, it's better than it's ever been.
Right.
So,
right.
And I know that Steph Curry is a part of that. Steph Curry was a minus 10 last night. All the bench, all 5 guys who came in off the bench were in the positive. So, yeah, it's a one-off. And I know plus minus is, we talked about this, it's a stat that we all use to weaponize our point. And my point is not that the Warriors are better without Steph Curry.
Right, because
I want to be clear about
a lot of those bench players were playing when Jokic was on the bench too.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if the Warriors bench is better than the opponent's bench, that's a good thing. And that's something that we haven't seen in a long time. And it's Chris Paul who is shepherding a lot of these guys, these younger guys. Last night, Moody, Podziemski, and Jackson Davis and Kuminga. If you look across just those 4 guys with Chris Paul, they're all under the age of 23. And I think TJD is the oldest of that group. So to be able to have Chris Paul at 38, coming up on 39 with that young group, that's incredible in terms of a second unit in the Stephless minutes we talk about.
And Wiggins got to finish. He didn't have a good game, but he had a good fourth quarter. I thought. Didn't he? Look, that was about as good of a run as we've seen. I know it's only 1 quarter, but if you're looking for glimmers with Andrew Wiggins, good fourth quarter. They let him stay all the way to the end of the game. That's good, right? No? No? You okay?
Oh, I was doing my Wiggins.
You got to. Oh,
I was doing my Wiggins.
I got it. It's a radio show. Nobody knows what you're doing there. Just sounds silent.
YouTube saw me do my Wiggins.
So good.
I'll give him this.
500 people know what's going on.
5 rebounds. He had 5 rebounds.
That's more than he's been getting.
That might be more than his entire season total.
Yeah.
And I'd have to Google it. But 4 of 13 from the floor. And I wish we still had the K-Wiggs bit because 0 of 3 from 3. 4 of 13 floor, 11 points, 5 rebounds from the number 1 overall pick in 29 minutes. And we look at that and we say, okay, good bounce back game, Andrew.
No.
Attaboy.
Bad game, but good fourth quarter.
No, but better game.
Good fourth quarter.
But that's a better game than he's had of late.
Yeah.
And that to me is maybe the most alarming thing.
Steve Kerr is going to join us at 5 o'clock today. There's no doubt that we're going to talk about what he saw in Andrew Wiggins in the fourth quarter, allowed him to stay in the game and finish, and where that all sits right now. I mean, absolutely that's something that we'll ask. 29 minutes for him. They were a little bit more starter heavy. Steph played 34. That's about as much. I think there was one other game where he had 36 this year. But with Draymond out, the minutes got condensed a little bit more. I just listen. I find it hard to believe that anybody came out of last night's game and was ticked.
No, you're not ticked.
No, well,
you're not ticked.
Usually you are. You lose a game that you feel like you should win, or if the Warriors lost.
But that was not that.
The Warriors lost because they look bad. You come away. You come away annoyed. Nobody was annoyed last night.
No, you lost a game that you probably should have lost, and you look at that spot on the schedule against that team. That team at home is probably the best team in basketball at home. You're playing game 4 in 6 nights on the road, and you don't have Draymond Green and GP2. That's a game that you're not expecting. Now, they might expect to win every game, and they should because they're the ones playing it. But you look at that from the outside looking in, that's a game where they lose, and you think, okay, I could see them losing that. And when they play like they did last night, they played hard, they competed, and they had a chance, multiple chances late to steal that one. You feel good about it.
No one, at least not right now. No one here is talking about June at all. But I could not be more excited about what I've seen in these first 9 games. I think they went about as well as you could have possibly hoped.